The North Curve. The North Curve.
Good day to all my Lazio fans listening from around the globe, bringing to you another edition of the North Curve, aka Lazio fan support group, similar to what maybe you'd find in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. And what I'm referring to there is, of course, some of us who are still dealing with the depression of Il Derby della Capitale and all that negativity it brings. I am, of course, your channel to unleashing all that negativity, Michael the Show Di Mascio, and I say there is no right or wrong way to vent your frustrations today, whether it's watching future games without comments, cheers, or even curses, which we love to do, to just plain erasing the 3 derby defeats from your mental memory. It's all good, and there's no right or wrong way. So after a less than convincing win last Sunday against Cesena, Lazio returned to training this week with a lot of holes to fill in the ways of suspensions and injuries. And coming up after the break, along with the help of NorthCurve.com's own columnist Ed O'Brien, we'll try and put a name to all the faces where everything should go against an all-important 6-match or 6-point tie against Napoli.
Pubblicità. Poi dentro Mauri ha portato in vantaggio la Lazio a 25 secondi dalla fine del tempo regolamentare. Stefano Mauri ha portato in vantaggio la Lazio, è il suo secondo gol in campionato e corona un avvio di stagione entusiasmante.
Ciao, sono Mauri e saluto tutti i tifosi canadesi della Lazio.
Non sarai mai sola. Per tutti i chiacchieroni italiani, la prova del 9 in strada 2002. A Emiliano, come si sta là dentro fra. Sono la voce di strada, racconto com'è che va. La voce stonata, dopo c'è chi non ne ha. La voce distorta, un grido di voce roca. Racconto la vita roca. Sono la voce di strada, racconto com'è che va. La voce stonata, dopo c'è chi non ne ha. La voce distorta, un grido di voce roca. Racconto la vita roca. Sono la voce di strada, racconto com'è che va. La voce stonata.
Alright, so it's a great pleasure for me to announce or welcome into the North Curve today somebody who's been close to us on the website itself, writing weekly previews of the game, as well as a proud member and relative regular form user of LazioForever.com. Mr. Ed O'Brien is with us. Ed, great pleasure, my friend, all the way from the UK, West Sussex, right?
Indeed, West Sussex, yep, and right on the south coast. It's great to be on the show, Mike. It's been a long time in the offing, but finally we are here, ready to talk about Lazio and Italian football, so great stuff.
Yeah, I guess for me, just being from West Sussex too, the UK obviously, you know, there's this thing called the English Premier League. I think it's a pretty big deal there. What draws you to the blue and white colors of Rome? Not that far away, but still quite a ways away from West Sussex.
Certainly a sizable distance, but for me, I first started following Italian football and supporting Lazio way back in 1993, and at that particular time, Italian football was quite big in this country. It still is. It's got a big fan base. But at that time, they had a legendary programme on Channel 4, which some other English listeners may remember, called Football Italia, which showed live games every Sunday afternoon of the Italian top flight, and that's what first drew me to it. Of course, you had so many great players playing in the league at the time, Signori, players like that. So yeah, that's what drew me in.
Well, we're really happy to have you, and it's always nice to get in touch with everything, and I think that's the name of the game, just plotting the dots and connecting all the dots across the world, and that's a great thing. And something with regards to just Italian soccer in general, obviously we're both fans of the same team, but this is a massive week, and you've alluded to this before. And we have some blockbuster games on the schedule, from Juventus and Roma to the Milan derby to a Sicilian derby, plus the Chasers with Udinese are in the mix as well. It's just a crazy week, and I don't know if we're going to catch any sleep this weekend.
It's unbelievable amount of important games this weekend. Whoever planned this round was a genius, I think, because it's come right at week 31. You've got 7 games remaining after this. The table is so tight, top and bottom. So many massive games. You've got the Milan derby. I think an Inter win there would certainly push them on towards the title. So it's all to play for AC Milan. Massive round for them. Of course, there's our game. Absolutely huge game for us. We've got to get something from that if we're going to push on towards the Champions League. Of course, the Sicilian derby, as you've alluded to as well. You've got Sergi Cosmi trying to put one over on Diego Simeone, and we're going to see how that one goes. Of course, there's another game, Sampdoria, absolute free fall at the moment, away at Chievo. So we'll see if they can do anything to halt their slide, which looks like they're on the way to Serie B at the moment if they're not careful. So absolutely massive round. Can't wait to see what happens.
Soccer is just a funny thing, like Sampdoria going from Champions League all the way to fighting for relegation. It's a sad story and a sad state of affairs for that team. And I think touching on all the other games, without showing any allegiances to any other teams, because it's not about that besides our own, but I think a lot of people wrote off Inter at the beginning of the season, and here's their chance to kind of shove it in everybody's face now coming in on Saturday. And with a win like that, all of a sudden you can't see them losing the Scudetto with all the momentum they have.
And just a few weeks ago, they played away at Brescia. They were on the verge of losing. Julio Cesar saved a penalty, and they took a draw away from that game, which at the time I thought, well, that's not going to be good enough. AC Milan had Bari in that round. Bari at home, you would think it would have been an absolute mauling. AC Milan drew, and all of a sudden Inter, they've picked up some momentum. They've got through in the Champions League. Amazing what a few weeks does in football, because now all of a sudden it's looking like they can go a long way in both. So, incredible stuff. Yeah,
and in terms of incredible stuff, you look no further than our team. Just to think where we were about a year ago, and that's what a lot of people are resting on is, look, we fought for relegation for pretty much the whole year of last year. Now we're fighting for a Champions League spot, and this is probably the biggest game of the season. But really, we have 7 finals left to play. There's 7 games left to play after this weekend, and they're all must-wins. So how do we reset basically after losing the derby, which a lot of people are kind of mixed emotions about that. Obviously, you can see the fans in Rome protesting against the team. There was a nice banner waiting for Stefano Mauri today after his return from the national team, saying he was unworthy. I mean, where do you find yourself in the mix of all these crazies? Where do you kind of align yourself, and how do you see things going on Sunday against such a tough opponent in Napoli? Probably tougher than the derby itself.
Yeah, arguably, although obviously with that you don't have the emotion so much of the derby that comes into play. It's a difficult one. I think that the international break, you've had 2 weeks, hopefully within the camp, it's been time to reflect, time to take some positive steps in training and all that sort of thing. We've had the 1-0 winner against Cesena, which wasn't a great performance by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a case of job done. 2-week break, now on to Napoli. It's going to be a tough game. It really is. Napoli, I think, how many games have they lost at home this season? Was it 1 to Chievo, I think, that's all they've lost. They lost to Milan as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, to go there, it's going to be an intimidating atmosphere. They're on a high. They can see the Milan derby inside the weekend, and they're going to be thinking, well, if that ends in a draw, we can close it even further. So they're going to be really up for this game. We're probably going to be on the back foot for a lot of it, but you never know. We got a point there last year under Ballardini playing some of the most defensive football I've ever seen. A point would be a good result, but it really doesn't do much for either side. Both sides have got to go for it. It's as simple as that, really.
And that's the thing about Napoli is a lot of people give them a lot of credit, and I feel like I know better in terms of what I've seen, just because they're a team that plays some really exciting soccer at home, and that's where they are going in on Sunday. That's where you don't want to play Napoli, is inside the San Paolo 60,000, 70,000 plus fans. as many as they can pack into there. But they have a tendency to crack under the pressure. And that's maybe what I guess I'm resting on, that going into that. We are rested, but we're definitely shorthanded going into this game. Matuzalam with his suspension, Ledesma and Radu's suspensions carrying over from the derby. There's a lot of question marks going into our team, and I think whatever we saw from Ballardini last year, we might see not quite a carbon copy, but sort of the same similar tactics of going with one striker up front and hoping to get them on the counter.
Absolutely. Napoli, as you just alluded to a moment ago, cracking under the pressure. I think we saw that against Milan not so many rounds ago, going into a big game away, and they got absolutely destroyed. They didn't know what they were doing. They weren't playing attacking football. They weren't playing defensive football. They were just completely lost in no man's land. Didn't really go into that game with a game plan, whereas I think at home we know what we're going to get. It's going to be, they're going to attack right from the go. We're going to be under a lot of pressure. So the longer we go without conceding a goal, the more they're going to get frustrated. So we've got to try and, certainly the first 20 minutes, I expect us to play defensively in that period and hopefully then start to build, because it's going to be tough. We can't afford to be too open in this one. But at the same time, we've got to look to impose ourselves on the game. Otherwise, against this team, with the quality they've got, especially Lavezzi, everyone's talking about Cavani, but Lavezzi, he gives them so much energy and so much creativity going forward in the final third. They really missed him when they didn't have him when he was suspended. But now he's back and he's going to be one to watch.
Yeah, you make a great point with Lavezzi being with everything he brings to the table. But the thing is about the stats never lie. For example, when Maudi doesn't play or doesn't assist on a Lazio goal, Lazio more often than not doesn't win. Just like when Edison Cavani doesn't score and Napoli doesn't win. So I still think Edison Cavani is the danger man. You want to keep that guy off the score sheet. For some reason, his goals come with 3 points more often than not, just like when Maudi plays. So, it's up for discussion. Lavezzi, another thing, he kind of embodies that whole choke mentality that Napoli seems to have. They lose the games against the big teams. They've dropped points to Inter. They actually, it's unfair to say because it was Leonardo's first game in charge for Inter at the time, but they really threw them a beating that time too, and they've kind of fell at the hands of Inter, let alone both times losing to Milan this year as well.
Absolutely. Cavani is it's unbelievable what he's done this season, not just in Europe as well. I can't remember how many goals he got in Europe, but he got a hat-trick away at 20. Fantastic finishing. I think they knew they were buying quality. I really don't think they knew what they were going to get from him this year. Aside from Di Natale, who again looks like he's on his way to an almost 30-goal season. Fantastic from Cavani. Big game-winning goals as well. You said Cavani scores and they win. Well, look no further than that game against Juventus where he scored a hat-trick. Absolutely destroyed Juventus on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Game. So, yeah. And not to mention Marek Hamzik as well, and there's Maggio. So they've got a team packed for the quality. But they're under a little bit of pressure, I feel. They've been saying they can dream of a Scudetto. They're putting pressure on themselves a little bit, which is good in one way for us, I think, because, there is the possibility they may choke under that pressure.
Yeah, I think that's better for us. We've tried to keep our ambitions hidden for most of the season. Now we've kind of put it out there. Champions League is our objective, and to obtain this objective, we have to beat Napoli. I think 3 points would be an amazing statement by us, especially away from home. But the beauty is taking a point away too is a fair result as well.
Point at San Paolo is always a good result. But I agree. Right now, at this moment in time, you look at the table, you've got the two Milan clubs. They're going to take 2 of the Champions League places, no doubt about that. Then you've got Napoli, 59 points. Udinese, 56. Udinese, this run looks like it's never going to end. They've got Lecce coming up after this weekend, and they've got Roma at home the week after that, and then they play Napoli. So massive 3 weeks for them. But Napoli have got 59 points. It's a big total at this time of the year. You would think 7+ points would probably get them in the Champions League. It's only 11 points away from them. So really we have to take, if we're aiming for the Champions League, this has to end in 3 points against, it's basically a 6-pointer. If Napoli were to win this, then all of a sudden they're 8 points ahead of us. So, with 7 games to go, that's a big lead.
And how would you like to see Lazio line up for this Sunday with all the pressure that's going against us? How does Rea cope going back to San Paolo for the first time since, uncharacteristically or ironically, we were the team that got him canned back when Tommaso Rocchi scored 2 goals 2 years ago? And it's just ironic that how everything's coming. Rocchi's coming back into fitness. He may or may not feature for a few minutes on Sunday. That still remains to be seen, but he's back practicing.